Buddy System is a game built around a cooperative core that requires both players to stay engaged in fighting or flighting. This is a top-down perspective game with a co-op function due to how much the players need each other. A big part of this game is the variety of enemies, which most of them consist of complex states. The overall theme of Buddy System is up in the air, but for now, Shadow of the Colossus fits well due to how big the enemy types are and the roughness to it. The actions are the core of this game, and how the two characters are connected to each other. Even individual abilities can benefit the other player. The individual abilities each player has are the same. Each character can jump, attack, dash, jump slam which slams the character down while in the air, transform into a ball, and fire a beam which has multiple effects on different enemies. More may be added later. But overall, the players will need each other in most aspects of the game. For example, each character when transformed into a ball can be picked up by the other player, then tossed. This can help players reach areas that they couldn't jump to before. While traversing the environment as a team, players may also run into enemies. Players must work together when fighting enemies they encounter. This is where players need to work together. Most enemies cannot be defeated by just one player. It's a team effort. The game will consist of a large variety of enemies that the players will use to learn new ways to take them down. Each enemy type will follow its own state machine, and only a specific state can the enemy be defeated. Each enemy will have an indicator showing what moves are required to be defeated. As the player learns these indicators and progresses forward, the fighting combos will become increasingly complex. Bosses will be at the height of these complex state combos. So a goal the player wants to shoot for is to learn all the indicators, understand as many enemies as possible before taking on the boss. At the end of each area, the player will encounter a boss, and the goal is to bring him down. Bosses will transition from one state to another during the fight, and the player should watch for things they have learned to figure out how to take this boss down. When a boss is complete, a new ability is granted to the player. This will help increase the difficulty moving forward into the game. It's a slightly linear game, so moving forward is easier, but there are still some restrictions on the players. Rules that players really can't break is how to fight enemies, and a big one is the players can't move too far away from each other. Since so much of the game requires both players, it's best if they stay close. Once a certain distance between the two is reached, they can't go any further. This may seem to be restricting, but it keeps the game flow much better paced. Let's say if one player was too far away, and the other player ran into an enemy. The player isn't given a choice, but to run. But with the restriction distance, the player now has a choice, fight or flight. Do you just leave the enemy, or try to hold out a little bit longer and wait for your teammate to get back to fight? This is a choice the players can now make. Should the player find all the enemies around the level and learn how to defeat them? Or don't learn the indicators and just tackle the boss? These bosses and enemies that I've decided on are similar to Cuphead, and how they transition from different states. The way players need each other in this can be close to how Sea of Thieves players work together to progress. These are the two biggest parts of the game that really can be compared. Traverse, fight, prepare, and level up is a solid structure of Buddy System. Players will explore the slightly linear level with abilities they have, run into enemies as they progress, and maybe learn something new. Use this new bit of info to complete the overall goal, then level up because of all this. The only risk I see now is the overall level layout. This is not final, but it can still become very repetitive. It's that there are many different enemies that could combat this repetitiveness, but it's still a big risk.